The night he heard it, the snow was already falling sideways, sharp and relentless, the kind of storm that erased footprints as quickly as they were made. He had just locked the door of the small grocery store where he worked the late shift, his breath fogging the glass as he turned the sign to close, when a thin voice cut through the howl of the wind. "My mom never came home." It was barely louder than a whisper, but something in it reached him, like a hand tugging at his coat. He turned, heart thudding, and saw a little girl standing under the flickering streetlight, her pink boots dusted white, her hat pulled low, her eyes too old for her face. Before we go any further, if stories that touch your heart and remind you of what really matters mean something to you, stay with me to the end, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe, because what happens next will stay with you long after the snow stops falling. He was a single dad himself, and that truth lived in the way he noticed children automatically, the way his eyes checked for cold hands and untied laces. His name was Adam, and 3 years earlier his world had split open when his wife died in a late-night crash on a road slick with rain. Since then, it had been him and his daughter Lily against the quiet, learning how to make dinners that weren't burnt, learning how to braid hair badly but with patience, learning how to keep going even when the house felt too empty. Lily was at home now, asleep on the couch with a book open on her chest, waiting for him to come back and tuck her in properly. Adam should have gone straight home. He knew that. But the girl's words stayed suspended between them, fragile as the snowflakes melting on her scarf. He knelt so they were eye level. "Hey," he said gently, keeping his voice calm even as worry tightened his chest. "What's your name?" "Emma," she said. "My mom went to work. She said she'd be home before dark." Adam glanced at the sky, already deep black even though it was barely past 7. "Where do you live, Emma?" She pointed down the street, then hesitated. "She didn't come. I waited. Then I waited more." Her lower lip trembled, but she didn't cry. That scared him more than tears would have. Snow thickened, the wind biting harder. Adam pulled off his gloves and wrapped them around her small hands. "It's too cold to stand out here. Let's get you somewhere warm, okay?" She nodded, trusting him in a way that felt heavy with responsibility. As they walked, Emma suddenly broke free, darting toward an alley between 2 buildings. "This way," she called, already disappearing into the white blur. "Emma!" Adam shouted, panic flaring. He followed without thinking, boots slipping on ice, the world narrowing to the small figure ahead of him and the sound of his own breathing. The alley opened into a maze of side streets, each one looking the same under the snow. Emma led him with certainty, turning corners, crossing roads without hesitation. Adam's phone buzzed in his pocket, Lily's bedtime alarm reminder, but he ignored it, fear and instinct pushing him forward. Every step he took, he thought of his daughter, of how she once waited by the window after school when he was late, convinced something terrible had happened. He remembered kneeling in front of her, promising, "I always come back." The words echoed now, painful and urgent. They reached a small apartment building, its entrance dark, the porch light burned out. Emma stopped suddenly. "This is it," she said, but her voice wavered. Adam tried the door. Locked. He knocked, hard, calling out, but the wind swallowed his voice. "Do you have a key?" Emma shook her head. "Mom has it." A tight knot formed in his stomach. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Adam called the police, his fingers numb as he explained between gusts of wind. While they waited, he wrapped his coat around Emma, holding her close, feeling how small she was, how easily the cold could take her. She leaned into him without a word, her head fitting perfectly under his chin. The storm raged on, minutes stretching into something unbearable. When the police finally arrived, lights flashing red and blue against the snow, Adam felt a surge of relief mixed with dread. They took Emma inside the warm patrol car, asked questions gently, radioed in details. Adam stood there, arms empty now, suddenly aware of the ache in his bones and the fear he'd been pushing aside. An officer returned, his expression serious. "We're going to check hospitals," he said. "And her mother's workplace." Adam hesitated. Can I come?" The officer studied him for a moment, then nodded. "She seems calmer with you." At the hospital, the sterile lights and hushed urgency felt unreal compared to the storm outside. Emma clutched Adam's hand as nurses whispered and screens beeped. After what felt like hours, a doctor approached, his face kind but tired. Emma's mother had been found. She'd slipped on ice outside her office building and been rushed in earlier, unconscious but alive. The words, "she's stable," felt like a miracle spoken aloud. When Emma finally saw her mother, pale but breathing, she burst into tears at last, sobbing into Adam's coat as if everything she'd held inside was finally allowed to spill out. Adam knelt beside her, tears blurring his own vision, the weight of the night pressing down on him in waves. He thought it was over then. He was wrong. Emma's mother, Sarah, needed surgery and days of recovery. There was no one else, no family nearby, no one to take Emma home. Adam looked at the sleeping child in the hospital chair, then at his phone filled with missed notifications from Lily. He called his neighbor to check on her, his voice shaking as he explained. Then he made a decision that scared him more than following a child into a snowstorm ever had. Emma can stay with us, he told the social worker quietly. At least until her mom's better. Those days blurred together, two little girls at his kitchen table, Lily teaching Emma how to color inside the lines, Emma laughing for the first time as they built a crooked snowman outside. Adam learned how to make double the pancakes, how to tell bedtime stories to two sets of listening eyes, how the sound of children's laughter could push back the echoes of grief in his home. When Sarah came home, thinner but smiling, she cried when she saw Emma run into her arms. She cried again when she hugged Adam, gratitude and something deeper in her eyes. "You didn't have to do all this," she said. "I know," Adam replied. "But I know what it's like to wait. I couldn't let her do that alone."